Have you ever considered just how much restraint Hasbro has made concerning Bumblebee lately? Think about it. Outside of Cyberverse, the only Bumblebees to hit shelves within the past 3 years or so have entirely been in studio series, which I guess is fair enough considering just how many different forms he took throughout the course of the films. Of course, restraint isn't exactly the first word that springs to mind when you remember that one wave that had 2 Bumblebees at once, but considering that the last non-movie generation's Bumblebee we got was all the way back in Titan's Return, I think we should all take a moment to count our blessings. And just a few days after I wrote this segment, in Earthrise, Bumblebee was teased. Funny how things work out. Welcome to Kit Katastrophe. My name is Kit, and today we'll be taking a look at Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Bumblebee, number 49 this time. This figure came out in 2019 as part of Wave 8 of the Deluxe assortment, and represents Bumblebee's appearance in the 2007 film Transformers. It's kind of surprising that it's taken Hasbro this long to get around to it, but this edition of Studio Series Bumblebee transforms into a 2008 Chevrolet Camaro, as seen throughout the latter half of the first Transformers film. This alternate mode is near flawless, even for a Studio Series figure. Excusing the transformation seams for a moment, this thing looks like it was just driven off the showroom floor. Perhaps that's because my original 2007 figure is so beaten up that... Despite the small size of this alternate mode, it's very nice. I really like the effort taken to add the surrounding pinstripes to the main stripes, though when I was young I was always wondering why the stripes didn't continue over the roof. The sculpted detail is impeccable, with Chevrolet logos abound, and the grille and headlights are picked out nicely with paint. Sadly, the rear only gets love in the form of painted taillights. Speaking of paint, it seems that those at the factory had a difficult time trying to get the yellow paint covering the clear plastic to match with the surrounding yellow plastic, or to get the yellow plastic to match with itself. I'm not sure how well these differences will come across over the camera, but the yellow paint seems a touch too green, possibly due to needing one more go-over with the brush, and the strange secondary yellow plastic making up these hinges near the doors are just ever so slightly darker than the rest of the yellow plastic that most will simply overlook it. I don't think these coloration issues are a deal breaker, they're just slightly distracting is all. Bumblebee's vehicle mode is a fucking fortress of tabs and slots. Good luck trying to get all of them undone in a timely manner. Best get a file and start sanding down some of the connections. The most annoying ones would have to be those connecting the thigh panels to what become the smaller secondary wings. Second place would have to go to those connecting the bumper pieces to the front wheel arches. Both are a total pain. The transformation itself is very similar to past Bumblebees we've gotten, namely the Last Night Deluxe and the original Studio Series iteration, especially in the legs. However, this version of Studio Series Bumblebee is by far the most involved, with extra steps given to streamline the design, such as the ball-jointed shin panels and the swiveling of the legs and waist around. I love the way the chest compresses to form a movie-accurate design, though I lament the use of faux parts that made it function as intended. To this day, I still prefer the way the original 2007 Concept Deluxe handled the torso transformation, even if it resulted in a less accurate robot mode, but that's a story for another time. Studio Series Bumblebee features one of the most screen-accurate depictions of his on-screen model at a retail price, I think. I'm not convinced. Oh sure, everything looks fine from the front, except for the grille poking out from behind his head, and those massive shoulder wheels easily doubling his breadth. Honestly, these are the first things that I notice whenever I look at this design, and it really disappoints me. Ever since Hasbro retired the original Concept Camaro Deluxe mold, we've been stuck with these massive panels just chillin' behind the shoulders. It's present on the Dark of the Moon Deluxe, on Studio Series 01, and even on Studio Series 18. On the original, the Automorph placed them at natural angles on his shoulder blades. It was perfect. That figure barely had half as much kibble as any of the more modern takes on this design. What's the excuse? That figure came out 13 years ago. We should be getting even cleverer transformation schemes, not falling back to the tried and true lazy techniques. Alright, I'll end the rant here and focus on some of the positives. The legs on the figure might just be the very best take on them I've ever seen. They're absolutely clean and spotless. No piece is wasted, and it's really impressive. Try to clear your vision of the kibble, and the robot mode is extremely well proportioned. The arms are really nice, though the shoulder pads seem a little flattened out. Is that true to the design? The head sculpt gives us a good representation of Bumblebee's battle mask, and is cross-compatible with the original Studio Series figure if you wish for a maskless version. Bumblebee comes with a representation of his built-in arm blaster, which can plug into and cover his hand to simulate it growing out of his arm. It's only truly compatible with Bumblebee's right hand if you want the full effect, and is cast in an unpainted black plastic. Not the worst of Bumblebee weapons, but not the best. While at first glance, this Studio Series Bumblebee may look well articulated and engineered, in reality he's actually not quite as stellar as he seems, though he isn't anything to laugh at either. Starting at the head, he has a ball joint, as I have shown you, in that you can pop it off and swap pieces with the original SS-01 Bumblebee. It doesn't really have much of a good range. It can technically look all the way around, but it's mostly just for regular left and right looking. He can also look up a little bit, which is alright, and he can not look down. The shoulders are on a ball joint that allows them to go all the way outwards and allows them to go forward and backwards until they hit the back kibble. The ball joints are also connected onto a hinge so he can shrug, and that's it for the upper arm. At the elbow, there is a ball joint that allows for a just over 90-degree elbow bend, and it also acts as a bicep swivel, which means that it's the same amount of posability with fewer parts. He has nothing at the wrist, though these arm gauntlet things can clip outwards for some undisclosed purpose, though I like to keep the one on his weapon-wielding arm outwards just as a little bit of extra flair. The waist rotation goes all the way around in theory, but in reality the hips bang up against the windshield on his ass. The hips have a ball joint that allows them to go forward and backwards until they hit the windshield once again, and allows them to go outwards for a pretty good spread. They have a thigh swivel just above the knee that rotates 360 degrees, and the knee bends just over 90 degrees, which is a-okay in my book. The feet don't really have any dedicated articulation. They are sculpted at an A stance as a sort of get around for an ankle tilt, but there are no actual joints that you're supposed to use for articulation in the feet. You can unhinge them and point the toes, but that kind of disconnects everything and looks pretty unnatural. So there are also these transformation joints that allow a sort of pseudo ankle tilt, and especially if you really disconnect them, they can look a little strange, but if you futz with it enough, perhaps they can look pretty natural. I don't tend to use these joints very much, but if this works for you, then go ahead. Otherwise, Bumblebee's got pretty much nothing. I mean, there are sort of optional articulation joints, as in these wings can move and these tires can move, but I generally see those as more for transformation than articulation. It's mostly aesthetics. So Bumblebee, he's well equipped for just about anything you really need him to, but there are some more advanced articulation components that he is missing that other figures do enjoy, and some people may be disappointed by that. However, I don't really see an issue. The Studio Series line has gone bananas, giving us Bumblebee after Bumblebee, and most of them are subpar. This one, however, I think does pretty good. That alternate mode of his is perfect, and its transformation does some really clever tricks. His robot mode is clean to a certain point, but I wish it could have done more. This iteration of Studio Series Bumblebee is absolutely not the best version of Bumblebee the line has to offer, but he is up there. At the end of the day, I'd say Bumblebee is deserving of a lovely, but no more than that. He is definitely outshone by one other that I'll get around to covering pretty soon. If you liked this video or otherwise found it helpful or informative, then please subscribe for more reviews like this in the future. I'm looking forward to hitting 300 subscribers soon, and feel free to suggest topics for future reviews. When we return, we'll answer the age-old question, does size matter? This has been Katastrophe. Transform and roll out.